What's up, YouTube? It's me, the Artisan MC, and today I'm going to review for you Masters of the Universe Revolutions 1, or excuse me, episodes 1 and 2. Now, I was not fully aware that this was coming out because I had pretty much checked out on Masters of the Universe um, in 2021 when they did Masters of the Universe Revelations Part 1. And seeing the way that went, I thought I might be interested in seeing part two. I've still never watched part two. I still haven't. It really did a lot of damage to the Masters of the Universe franchise. And as I said, Tila going her own way was the story, and it wasn't as compelling as I would have liked. It was a blow to Kevin Smith and his geek credibility for what he did. And so much so that I think a lot of people, aside from myself, checked out by the time part two showed up or into it at all. Now, seeing that this show, Revolution, has showed up, I think it gets over a little bit and it's going to get hurt a little bit by the similarity in the naming of the show because it's the same production company, it's the same writer, same director, still Kevin Smith, but Revelation and Revolution sounds too close alike for people to really know the difference. Now, the easy way I figured out to understand this is to understand that Revelation was a two-parter. It's just two parts. Revolution is 5 episodes, which is why, since I have some time at home today, I am going through and binging this season of this. As soon as this is over, I'm going to watch the next 3 episodes and call it a day because I don't have time to keep doing episodics. I just don't. So, coming into this, I was a bit hesitant to watch it, but yet and still, I still wanted to watch it because I do like Kevin Smith movies. I do like Kevin Smith as a person and director. I don't agree with some of his takes at times, but I don't agree with a lot of people's takes sometimes. That's nothing to mean that overall I don't like them at all. It doesn't mean that. It just means I didn't agree with that take. So for me, it is more fun to watch the He-Man characters and the Masters of the Universe characters on the screen playing out again to remember that fondness from my childhood than it is to give someone a second chance to slap you in the face. So, for what I saw, the trailers on this one, it looks like there's some different stuff happening. And being that I did not see Revelation Part 2, I'll let them fill in some blanks for me that I don't have that taste in my mouth from that being the last thing I saw of He-Man. So, I went ahead and sat down and watched these first 2 episodes. And I will say, these first 2 episodes, pretty strong. Pretty strong. There were some good scenes in both episodes. And each episode is only about 30 minutes, which I like. That they, at least with Netflix and these shows, they can stick to a runtime and have that runtime be consistent because it makes it easier for the audience member, being myself, to pick out how much time I have to actually watch this because I can schedule it outside of having, like we did in Echo, a descending amount of time. Every episode was a different length. It didn't make any sense to me. So this one is 2 30-minute blocks, like watching He-Man back in the day. So I was able to spend an hour and watch this and get into the story. Now, the story of this one is kind of straightforward, that it picks up after the events of Revelation, and it tells you that right in the intro, which I appreciated, which was good. It clears up the confusion of where it's happening in time and what's going on. And you open with Prince Adam going into Subternia to rescue his friends, Fisto and I forget the other guy's name who was there. My bad. But you get to see Scareglow and introduce the characters again for people. and see them going to do what heroes do, save their friends, and you know, cap not capture them, rescue them from the enemy, so to speak. And you're introduced to the new man at arms, Tila's friend, female friend, black chick who is now the new man at arms. Randor is there. Orko is there, having full control of his powers, which I remember from Revelations, which I enjoyed. And the cast of characters are there, with a couple of new ones that you get to see and whatnot fight. And what I enjoyed about this was the beginning. This had the feel of a early MCU movie. It really did. It felt like Avengers 1 or something. Because I caught it halfway through watching the beginning, because I was seeing scenes that just kept invoking memories of the Avengers to me. And I thought that was a bit interesting, since this is a Netflix property. This is not a Marvel Disney property. This is a Netflix property. So why is it giving me that feel? Well, Kevin Smith works with Marvel a lot of times. He's written for Marvel on a couple of occasions, at least Spider-Man and Daredevil. He likes Marvel comics. So watching this, I did get the feel that, okay, I'm watching Iron Man and Captain America running around together. Because at one point, King Randor jumps in a mechanized man at arms suit, steps into it, and he goes out into the fight with his son, Prince Adam, as He-Man. And I'm like, it's Captain America and Iron Man. I mean, with that visual and the music bumping, that sounded like the Avengers theme song. I'm like, holy shit, this is Avengers take, right? This is the Avengers ripoff. Now, that's not to say that what they did was completely rip it off, but it invoked the same themes of Avengers movies in it. And you get into the story to find out that Randor is actually dying, and he knew it. And I thought this was one of the strongest scenes in that episode, in this first episode, where you have a conversation happening between King Randor, his wife, and Prince Adam. And King Randor is having this exchange with his son, Prince Adam, that is very heartfelt and very real. And it just, to me, it just spoke of good writing on Kevin Smith's part, because I know Kevin Smith has been through this with his father. And he's probably going through it with his daughter, because he had his health scare of having a heart attack not long ago. And since that time, I have seen a shift in him, which is why I give him some leeway on doing things differently, making a harder turn towards female characters and stuff like that. It's because he has a daughter and he almost died. So he knows that time is coming. So this conversation that he has with Prince Adam, I feel it pulled on what Kevin Smith actually experienced himself, and how the conversation between son and father, when father knows he's going to pass, went down. I thought it was very, very touching. Now, the other thing that I found most interesting in that is that Tila is the sorceress now, which I did not see in Revelations because I did not watch part two. So seeing Tila show up as the sorceress and finding out the original sorceress was her mother was like, oh, okay, somebody got to be it. But what I noticed, there was a switch for the character in a sense, that Tila was a bit more on the femme side again. That it seemed like she had feelings for Adam again. I'm like, so how did they bring that back? Because I thought in Revelation she was damn near a whole lesbian. That female man at arms was her black brown sugar. Like I'm missing something now, but I'm liking this turn. I'm not mad so much that she is a sorceress's daughter and she has power and stuff like that now. I'm not mad about that necessarily. Doesn't really bother me so much, but the switch in her reaction to Adam and He-Man is that they're attracted to each other. And I thought that was actually gone from the character. And I actually appreciate that being in there. So I'd have to see what else happens with that. But the fact that it's there, and even King Randor mentions it to Prince Adam that you have to, let her know how you feel and all the rest of that, I thought was pretty interesting. I mean, especially in the sense that if Tila is now the sorceress of Grayskull and Prince Adam is the champion of Grayskull, Tila is his Prince Adam's mistress, like in a dominatrix kind of situation. He do her bidding. He's her footstool, which actually played into the same stuff that's happening over with Skeletor in this. Now, I love Mark Hamill, right? I may not agree with everything Mark Hamill says, politics or anything like that. That's his damn choice. He's his own individual person. He can say and do what the hell he feels. As an actor, as a voice actor, I absolutely appreciate Mark Hamill. And his voice as Skeletor for me is perfect. Perfect. Even as good, if not better, than the original person to play Skeletor. Because it's iconic. His voice is iconic. And he does enough different things with the character that I don't think I'm just listening to the Joker. Don't think I'm just listening to the Joker. Because at least for me, Skeletor is always at one level. The Joker will go up and down. He'd be cackling and kind of maniacal and definitely serious and low and growling like you knew there was a problem happening. Skeletor doesn't seem to be that way. He seems to be pretty even in between what the Joker was. Hearing Mark Hamill on screen, I immediately started to smile. I really did. Now, the whole thing with Skeletor becoming the simp to Mistress Motherboard, another Dominatrix kind of situation. I'm assuming that Mistress Motherboard comes out of Revelation Part 2, because I've never seen this character before. And Skeletor being wholly gone over to this technological side of Eternia that once existed, and praising this woman in a metal body is just what I consider par for the course. That's the femme side in it. Women are in charge, and men are their footstools and attack dogs. They do the bidding of these women, at least on Eternia. Now, what you find out a bit later is that Mistress Motherboard actually has a daddy. And not daddy in the sense that he gave birth to her, but daddy in the sense that I'm going to bring him back his money so he don't tap that ass. And when Skeletor leaves, she, does her VR presentation to her daddy, her pimp, the dude that she worked for. And it is Hordak, voiced by Keith David. Now, that's perfect to me. I was a He-Man fan and a She-Ra fan back when that came out. I remember going to see the She-Ra movie when it opened in the theaters. Century and Pinot. I went to the movie theaters to go watch that shit. If I was a smarter kid, I would have still had that comic that came out of that movie. But I liked the show. I liked He-Man. I liked She-Ra. I watched them both. It wasn't that big of a deal. And understanding who Hordak is, Hordak is basically like Skeletor's father. Yeah, Hordak a boss. And I like Keith David. Keith David has voiced some of my favorite animated characters, be it Goliath, be it Hordak now, be it Spawn. He's voiced some of my favorite characters. I like that guy's voice. He has an awesome freaking voice. So I'm fine with that. The only thing that gives me pause on it, and mind you, this is still all just in season one. The only thing that gives me pause on it is that Kevin Smith is following that Marvel trope that I'm not really liking right now, is that the big bad is always a black dude. I'm really having an issue with that. That is not representation. Okay. That's not what that shit is. That's really starting to wear on me, especially in the wake of the Jonathan Majors case. That shit is really starting to wear on me a lot. Keith David is an awesome actor, fabulous voice for voice acting. And him playing Hordak, that works for me, but it's still an issue that this is going to be the big bad of this 5-episode arc. And this is going to be him again. We're going to be rooting for this next black dude to fall. I'm not with that. I'm not really with that. Now, I'm not going to get into spoiling everything. That's just story setup. It's a 30-minute episode. So I had to give you something to know what was going on. And that was actually good. Episode 2 introduced more in the sense that there's more going on in Eternia than just King Randor, getting sick, what he's dealing with. There is another good scene to where you have Tila talking to the sorceress and finding out more about the power of Eternos and Eternia and where it comes from. And while Tila keeps trying to recreate Preternia, which we saw in part 1 of Revelations, even though she keeps trying to create it, she can't create it. She doesn't have enough power to do it. And begrudgingly, she goes down further and goes to talk to the sorceress and asks her mama what's going on. And her mother tells her, you can't create it without these other 3 powers that helped create it the first time. Yeah, you have a lot of power, but you don't have the power of all these 3. And basically, it's different versions of power she has to account for. It takes a trinity of these powers to make this one place. She can't do it alone. But because she is the first sorceress who can actually leave Grayskull, I don't know why that is. I'm assuming that's Revelations Part 2. She will have to go on her own mission to try to gain these other 2 powers, or find the people who have these other 2 powers to help her create Preternia. And she goes off on her mission. Now, while she's off on her mission to gain this extra power, I don't want to spoil it, but Skeletor attacks Eternia after a period of darkness, so to speak. And when Skeletor shows up, he is using these smoke bombs that are filled with nanomites or nanobots, nanotech, whatever you want to call it. Now, that's a little interesting to be thrown into the He-Man universe, because He-Man always skirted the line. Yeah, it favored magic heavy, but they did have vehicles that could fly and shit like that, which some technology, but mostly medieval like, which made it the fun mix. Seeing the nanotech and Skeletor praising Mistress Motherboard and all that stuff really is like, okay, that's a bit new age for me. It's a bit new age. I remember seeing the design for the character and I'm thinking, well, they can make some toys off of that. And sure enough, looking online to make the thumbnail, there's toys already out of it. I'm like, oh, well, there you go. They waste no time. They waste no time. It's an ugly looking toy to me, but whatever. I don't play with toys anymore. So it is what it is. I wouldn't buy that shit for my kid because it looks too ugly. It doesn't look like it's fun to play with. But Skeletor goes ahead and attack. And my biggest laugh in this scene is that I was calling Skeletor in my watch for this. I call Skeletor Skeleteki with all this robots and stuff like that. And that's a shout out to Aquateki from the Manosphere space, right? Because Skeletor got this tech and this computerized eye and stuff like that. He looked like a reverse Cable. I mean, really, he dealing with a techno virus as well. Like, are we just gonna rip off everything from Marvel or what? Do we got some ideas? Or we just, salad bar and this shit? But that's what he looks like. Well, it made me laugh so hard is that when Skeletor showed up, he's infecting all these people with these nanobots and stuff. He got the robotic arm and everything else. And He-Man sees him. He calls him Skeletech. Laughing because the character acknowledges the name and said, "Oh, I like that. Maybe I'll keep it." Right? And I'm like, "Yep, I was right." I was right. Like I could have wrote that. That was pretty funny. I could have wrote that. He's Skeletech. I was like, okay, okay, we can roll with that. I don't dismiss the fact that he just looks like Cable reverse, but whatever. Whatever, man. Let's look. Entertain me for 30 minutes. Let's see what it is. Now, it's just silly. The next interesting part that happens is that Tila, on her quest to gain these extra abilities and find these other two sources of magic, ends up at the cave of Granmere. I think that's how I say his name correctly. And Granmere is a dragon, right? And he knows snake magic, apparently. Now, I thought this part was very interesting because while I'm watching this scene play out with Tila and this dragon talking, I'm really liking the look of the dragon because I like dragons, right? I like the way dragons look, the different versions of it, Celtic, Asian, Western. I get into that, right? I'm watching this dragon move around and talk, and I'm like, this motherfucker looks like Niz Mizzet. Now, I'm a geek. I'm a gamer. I play Magic the Gathering. I'm watching this red dragon on four legs walking around and stuff like that. And I'm like, this is Niz Mizzet. Like, straight up, this is Niz Mizzet from Magic the Gathering. But I'm listening to how he goes about, and sure enough, at one point in the conversation, the dragon illuminates this cartouche, if you want to call it that, on the wall of his sanctuary, right? And reveals it. And when it reveals with him this carving of him up there with his wings spread out and stuff like that, I'm like, that's Nicobolus, dude. What are we doing? What are we doing? Is Wizards of the Coast aware of this, that they getting ripped off like right now? Like, bruh, I would pay to see a Magic the Gathering live action movie or animated series. I would, because it would work. It could totally work. But I'm sitting here watching this show rip off two of the best dragons in that shit. I'm like, dude, I guess Ugin is next. Let me just see Ugin in this episode. Or I guess we got three more left, so I guess he'll show up for that. It's just hilarious to me, right? But I'm getting into the story of what's going on with this dragon because the dragon is dying. And the dragon is dying because of the shit that Evil Lyn did in Revelations, apparently part 2, right? So there's a lot of linchpins going back to Revelations part 2, which means I will eventually have to go back and reveal what is in Revelations part 2 to myself. Okay, I have to watch it. But it's not slowing me down from watching this episode and going along with what's happened because it's quickly touched on what happened and is moving on with the rest of the story to understand, this is because this happened. This is what's happening with you. And we're dealing with what's happening with you right now. But we let you know that it's based on what happened here. I like that. To me, that's some decent writing where you don't have to do a bunch of exposition, right? You don't have to spend 10 minutes explaining the whole thing and giving you a recap and all the rest of that. We just let you know this happened. and this is the effects of it, and we're dealing with the effects, not the event that you should have watched and saw what the fuck happened. I appreciate that a little bit. So by the time we get to the end of that episode, you have a really good scene with somebody I don't want to spoil, and Tila talking with this dragon, and where it sets up for the next episode. And that's where I stopped. That's where the episode cuts off. And I'm like, that is a good cutoff and lead in. That is basically comic book logic, that we will leave you on this cliffhanger for 30 days, and you will wait 30 days to see what we tell you next happen in the moment right after that. And I'm like, that was a good lead. Thank you, Kevin. Appreciate that. Now, that second episode wasn't written by Kevin Smith. It was written by somebody else. Kevin Smith directed it, but he didn't write it. That was a good leave. I really appreciate that leave because it made me more interested in, okay, we got to get on to number 3. We got to get on to the middle point of this triangle to see where this is peaking before it gets down into how we finishing it out. So for this review, I'm enjoying what I'm seeing in the show so far. I will say in the second episode, He-Man, Prince Adam, whoever the fuck you want to call him, look, just because you get big muscles don't make you any smarter, which it should. Look, by the power of Grayskull, you need to have that shit charged into your brain as well. This character made one of the dumbest freaking mistakes ever. It's like, no. I'm not going to tell you what it is, but I'm just saying, look, man, this is the problem with having too much bulk and your head not getting big like the leader from Incredible Hulk comics while your muscles got big. Your brains need to get bigger too. You need to be cognitively better because that was dumb. That shit irritated me because it was just dumb. I'm like, no fucking way. No, don't do that. So yeah, it gave me another lead in for the next episode. Like, let me find out really quickly that this dude had made a mistake and he know it. I need to know that immediately because that was just dumb. But with that, I'm going to go ahead and end this now. It's on Netflix. I believe it just dropped today, and it's worth a watch. So far, in 2 episodes, it's been good. I've been binged these last 3, and I'll come back and let you know what I saw in the last 3. If it's good, it's good. If it's crap, it's crap. And if you agree with me, you agree with me. If you don't agree with me, you don't agree with me. It's just what it is. Everybody got their own fucking opinion. So with that, I will see you guys as soon as I get my little outros up. There we go. I will see you guys on the next one. Peace.